Sell it, buy it, rent it, lease it.
KMC Property Services, making your real estate dream a reality.
Welcome, welcome all. This is Real Estate-ically speaking and more. And this episode is episode 16. And as usual, this show seeks to educate you on various topics relevant to the real estate industry. And I'd like to share a quote with you on this episode. And it goes like this: real estate is a key cost of physical retailers. That's why there's the old saying, location, location, location. Now, our topic for tonight is treating your property from pest infestation. And we have a professional with us who is none other than Reverend Cosma Baker, who is a pest controller, and he owns the company Better Kill Pest Control. And he's going to share with us how we can get rid of these pests that tend to infiltrate our homes at times and infiltrate our businesses, so wherever they are, right? So with no further ado, I'll just go right into our question and answer segment with Reverend Baker.
Well, firstly, I want to thank you for inviting me on the program. And I believe it's a wonderful program and it's quite insightful here. And, it's a joy to be here.
How long have you been a pest controller?
Yes, I have been a pest controller for about 30, this year would be 38 years to be exact.
Wow.
Yes, 38 years.
That's a long time.
I tell you, it's a long time.
You have quite a lot to tell us tonight.
Well.
Is there a specialized training that one has to do to enter the field?
Yes, it is. To become a pestologist, one has to study for at least 5 years. And to study the habits of insects, what types of insects you're dealing with, and also their lifespan.
Wow.
The biological aspects, and the breeding aspects of insects, their habits, and where they live, how they invade your properties, whether home, business, it doesn't matter. And one of the things about insects, it's close to humanity. It's close to human beings in that if you don't see insects, if you don't have insects, if we were to eradicate all the insects, you'd eradicate human beings.
Wow.
So that's why we're called pest controllers. We can only control them. They're a part of the system of the world, the system of creation.
Indeed.
In fact, they were here before us.
And of course, I'm sure some of them are, have a purpose. And
oh yes,
I quite
everyone.
understand the reason why you wouldn't want to eradicate them totally.
No,
but
not at all. I'll be out of a
okay.
job.
You're out of a job.
Yes.
All right. It's just when they overtake your space.
Oh yes.
And
yes.
that is it. Why we have to kind of tone them down somewhat.
Of course,
right.
of course.
So is there a special school, or where do you get this specialized training?
This training can be had at the Pest Control Authority. They do have training for those who would like to get into that field. It's a beautiful field to get into. And if you take it seriously, you can build a wonderful career out of it. And usually people who get into pest control, most of them, it's a lifelong career for them.
Awesome. Would you say this is a very lucrative business?
It is such a lucrative business that anywhere in the world you go, you can have a job because there will always be insects and pests just about every corner of the globe. So it's a very
And
lucrative business, wonderful business to get in.
it's the standards are basically the same in any jurisdiction, you would say?
It varies because of different countries, weather pattern, and all of that. For example, the tropical areas, we don't have snows. You find that they don't go into hibernation as much as like the colder states, in North America, Canada. They have a time when you won't have much insects because they go into hibernation or hide away during the winter season. But come spring, you're gonna have a problem on your hand because that's the breeding time for them and stuff like that. But in the tropical countries, they are with us almost 24/7.
All right. So there you have it. All right. So what is considered a pest and what are the different types of pests you treat mainly?
Oh my goodness. It's like a kingdom. It's for the termites, it's over 2,000 species. For roaches, 2,000, about 2,000 species.
Wow.
However, there are three main termites from the termite family, because the termite family is from the ant family. The ant family is a wide family. And but for the termites that we treat, whether North America, Africa, or in the Caribbean or in Asia, it's the subterranean is one of the most destructive termites because the nest is usually underground. They live underground. That's where they set up their colony. Then they will come above, and sometimes they will put on wings, especially in the rainy season, and they fly above. And that's how they get into the roof. And they produce a saliva that helps them to not necessarily to cut through a lot of stuff, but they can worm their way through areas because of the saliva that they produce. They don't waste anything. They're very smart insects. They live the longevity for maybe 3 months or so, but they live in such a concentrated and well organized way because you have in the subterranean termite colony, you'll have the queen. The queen is the only one that actually allowed to have eggs and reproduce. When the male, which she could just pick a male, and that male becomes a king. But when it mates with the queen, it dies a short while after. She stays fertile, for a long season, and she produces. They, as I said, they're very well organized, and they have the soldiers, the workers, and the cleaners, the ones who clean the nest, make sure that foreign matters stay away from the queen. They take care of that, and then you have the regular workers, and they do work on shift. The soldiers watch. So it's very, very interesting to study that the subterranean termites. The one that is a little unique is the drywood termites. The drywood termites is, as they say, drywood termites. It like dry places. So you'll find them indoors and you see little grains, but you will not see them. Half of the body looks like an ant and half like a termite. They don't put on wings as long as they're indoors. If they're going to migrate, that's when they put on their wings and they'll fly away. So we see them as rain ants, but they're really termites above ground. Then there's another
Are
one.
you
That
serious?
one is yes. There's this one that eats out. Have you ever go to look at a property and you see some little white grains at the door?
Yes,
And
yes.
yes,
Right away, I know
it's
that there is termites.
yes, yes. That's what they call chichi.
Yes.
Yeah, chichi is the little nickname that they call it, chichi, but they're really dry wood termites because they like dry places. They can survive for a long time in dry places. They cut out, make it very hollow on the inside, but they make just a pin hole as they go in. But as long as they get in, they don't need to build a nest. So they eat, and what you see there is the droppings. So you actually see them eating. What the droppings tell you about the board that they're eating. So if you're not careful, you look like you might have a door, but really you can push your finger through the door because they would eat it out.
Yes,
The
I've seen
smart
those
thing,
signs.
yes, and one of the smart things about termites, even the subterranean, when they come above ground, they walk in small tube because they have also predators. And they have a thing called laser. They developed the laser tank from the termites. They did an understudy of the termites in South Africa under the white government, and they developed the laser tank because there's a laser termite that it cannot, let's say, it cannot manage a carpenter ant, which is much bigger, has heavier claws and stuff like that. It ties it up. It just they just gather. The soldiers will gather around. These are the termites now, and attack that ant or those ants, and wrap them in that laser, and they will just suffocate and die. So
Wow.
they yeah, so they developed the laser tank of the laser termites. Now there's
Okay.
one more that is very popular in Jamaica, but you find that on the outdoors, which is we call tropical termites, and that's the one we call duck ants. They live on trees. They make huge nests, in trees, and they're very bad for homes too. They get into your ceiling, and they can do irreparable damage in the roof, and
Yes.
so on, your cellars and all that. But they
Yeah.
have big trail about the size of your finger, and they if you break the trail, they patch it quickly. As quickly as you break the trail, they can patch it and continue to move on. And the
Wow.
termites are pretty much blind. They go by chemical, so they touch each other, and they transmit. That's how they communicate, by touching each other. But they are very smart. Yes, very,
Wow.
very smart insects. Yes.
Wow. This is
Yeah.
really a new university to me today.
Oh my goodness. Don't say that.
All right. So, how should property owners treat their investments for pets? For pests?
Oh yes. Yes. It's such a wonderful question you asked there, Lady Karen, because insects, pests can really run down your property. I mean, of course, the land will be the land, but they can ruin a house. They can really ruin a house in a very short time if you do not take proper precaution. And there are times when you might not see a volume of insects, but if you allow them, because of the rapidity of their breeding cycle, for example, let's look at something that bothers people a lot: rodents. A pair of mice can give you 350 in 1 year. Just one pair of mice can give you 350 in 1 year.
My, my.
A teenager roach, during its lifetime, which is a very short lifetime, but she can give you uh, one in one capsule, just one of the little capsule. It holds 40 roaches, and 27 out of the 40 are females. So you can
Wow.
imagine when a bunch of them um, drop those eggs, and the teenager actually, which is called the Germanica Batilia germanica, that's the name for the teenage roaches. Now, the thing about teenagers, they can live in very cold places. So you'll find them sometimes in the strip of the door there, that rubber stuff. Sometimes when we are spraying, we have to pull the rubber, and you'll find them spray behind the rubber, and you find them dropping out. They can survive there. They can survive in
Wow.
your oven. They live in the
Wow.
oven. And then there are two types of the teenager. You have the black band in the back of the head. You'll see two black stripes. And then you have the brown one that has no stripes at all. One likes dry places and one likes damp places. So uh, the mother keeps the eggs for about, well, maybe about 2 to 3 days before actually dropping that egg. So she actually feeds the young ones. But if you were to step on it or break it, you'll see a milky substance. But they're real roaches being developed in those eggs. And when they're hatched, a little from the mother's body, a little chemical from the mother's body seeps into the eggs and they become immune to the pesticide. So if you're using, let's say, for argument's sake, an emulsion and you kill the mother, the eggs are pretty much impenetrable for the chemical, but a little vein from the mother's body that connects the mother to the egg goes into the egg and introduce them, and they become immune. So many times people would say, oh, the pest controller comes and, you know, we're having more roaches. The more he sprays it, the more. If he doesn't change the formula, so he will have to swing to an oil base that they're not used to, or a dry base that will actually sterilize the male and cause them not to impregnate the female. So you have to really study them to be on top of your game, because they are here to survive. They're here to stay.
But I find though that many pest controllers don't necessarily educate their clients as to what to expect. Like, to say, for instance, you know, you say about treating for example, the teenager. You treat it this time, but
Yes.
I find that they don't necessarily tell you that come the next 2 weeks or 6 weeks, you know, we need to
Yes.
come back, because this is the reason why we need to come back. I
That's
find
right.
that the kind of information that you're giving me, I've dealt with some before, and they don't know, they have never ever said why you need to, or they may just
Yeah.
say, you know, I need to come back, but they have never ever explained it the way you did, you know, so that,
Okay.
you know, the science behind the whole thing. So thank you for
Yes.
that explanation.
It is indeed a pleasure, Lady Karen, and it's a such a powerful question that you've asked there. And just for the sake of the viewers and the listeners, the chemical, if it is mixed right, you'll get a good job initially. If you go back and use the same chemical, you're going to have a problem. So that follow-up that you had just mentioned is so key to to manage the pest, because in 6 weeks the little ones would come out not they have not reached the stage yet to actually reproduce. They don't start reproduce. However, if you can catch them within that time, and it is best to sweep up the eggs, and you can burn them, or you can get them in the garbage canister, get them away from the area. So
But
don't
won't
don't
they, if
leave
you
the.
if you take them elsewhere, won't they reproduce elsewhere without you
Well,
killing them?
usually you put them in the garbage and they take them down to Riverton. They can always breathe up down there, to the to the dump. But you really don't want them anywhere near. So
Right,
sometimes they
okay.
spray and they leave the eggs, and the eggs have that ability now to hatch out, and you have 40 young ones to deal with among how many eggs that are there. And when that is done, they are immune to that chemical. So it is very difficult to they grow immune to the chemical. So it's good to go back with the follow-up. Now, a lot of people, they don't see it necessary to do that, because the pest controller doesn't take time out to explain to them, tell them this, and this is of paramount importance for us to, come and have the property, do a follow-up job on the property. Sometimes they don't expect that they don't do that. And when they do mention it, they don't explain to the client to let the client know the importance of it. So they just think that you want to just get a quick buck again from them. So that's where a problem
Right,
can.
right, right.
Now let me
And
just
as
quickly
people,
say,
mhm.
yes, let me just quickly say, so that is for the teenager, and it's the hardest roach to handle because they become immune because of that. The other roaches, they pin their eggs with a saliva that like a cement and seal it to the wall and leave it there or any little place that they can hide it until they're hatched out. The red roach that we see, that pretty burgundy looking one that people hate, and I don't like that roach at all. It can fly up to 100 yards straight
Woo!
without,
Oh my
yes,
God.
100 yards.
Mm.
Whenever it is going to rain, they will go to higher level or go into a safe place. They don't really want to invade your house because they invade your house for two things, for breeding purposes and for feeding. For breeding purposes and for feeding. They go into the cupboards where they can pin their eggs and they can go and eat. So but that roach usually comes up through. It's good to have mesh where the in the bathtub there and all that, a little mesh so that they can come up through that because they're larger roaches. But they are really they nest a lot in manholes. So if someone comes to the house to spray your house and around the house, it's important, very, very, very important to open up the manholes. You should walk with special tools to bring up the manhole, to open it up, and to spray inside of the manhole. And sometimes it's good to use a dry base chemical because when the water evaporates from the chemical, the crystals are there and it will take care of the job. And it can but because the manholes are very hot, it breaks down the chemical much quicker. So a powder-based form for the manhole, I recommend that strongly and highly.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for that. On an average, how long does a treatment last?
Because of the chemicals that we're using now, we have to be using more environmentally friendly chemical. And for aerosol that you will buy in the supermarket, they have taken out a lot of the active ingredients that the knockdown is there, but they remove what word I'm searching for now? The There's a word that I'm searching for, it just won't come. But there was a time when the chemical would last for 6 months, but people were not comfortable with that because it was bothering the water table and certain plants like bananas and stuff like that. They were having some problems, so they changed all that kind of chemical like the chloridine, the dieldrin, and all of that. They changed that now to chemicals that last for pretty much about a month or 6 weeks or so. They don't give you something beyond that, especially when you're spraying indoor, is you don't want to flood homes with too much pesticides. You just want to make sure that you're treat it good, and you might have to do a quick follow-up, but after that, then you watch it to see how things are. But I would say 6 weeks, 2 months, the most for some chemicals. Termites, I'd say 5 years. Can do if the job is done scientifically the way it is supposed to be done, and professionally, you're looking at about 5 years. But they don't give you guarantee on the chemicals anymore. It used to be a lifetime, 75 years, but all of those they removed from the North American market, and now they put it in the third world. Now it's out of the third world. They don't make it anymore. So what they make now is environmentally friendly chemicals, and that pushes us well.
Okay. Would you recommend this profession to persons who may be considering a business option?
Oh yes, with oh yes. I mean, there are 1,000 yeses, and but you have to have a love for
Passion.
it.
Mhm.
Yes, you have to have thank you. You have to have a passion and a real, love for this thing because there are times when you go into areas where it's not so nice. You have to go into your cellar areas, and it's just not one insect. You might be spraying roaches, but you're spraying scorpions and centipedes and all kinds of, wasp, that sort of thing. So it is, but it's something to not just to put some chemical in a can and call yourself a pest controller. No, it takes time to learn it and learn it well, because you have to deal with children, and one has to take necessary precautions by by being observant. Nothing should pass you should to your eyes. Nothing you should take for granted. If there are toys in the way, take time out. Don't rush. Take time out. Go into the kitchen. You see flour base, all that kind of product. You take time out to help pack them away neatly. If it's not done properly, don't ever spray. It is better for you not to spray than to spray and contaminate. So it takes a lot of responsibility, because at the end of the day, you're using poison, and someone trusts you in their house or their property using poison to kill something, and they are not harmed in any way. So for doing that for almost 38 years, and no one has ever complained for that, I have to knock something. Help me knock something.
All right.
But I'd surely recommend that for anyone who wants to make a career, a business out of that. It's fantastic.
Okay then. So with that said, that has put a lid on our discourse for tonight.
Tune into our live stream, Estate-ically Speaking, with yours truly every second and fourth Friday as of November 2021. You can contact us at the information on screen.